Great. Thank you, everybody, for being here. My name is Stuart Schlossman. I'm president and founder of MS Views and News. Today's program is sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb, and internationally, we want to give them a virtual round of applause, all right? I want to thank everybody for being here and thanking them for, helping us to do today's program. This is about wellness, all right? This is the MS Wellness Summit. We do this periodically. Today's program, again, it's an MS Views and News program. So for Trevor, I got to find his bio again. My gosh, I just mixed it all up here. But Trevor is actually on Mountain Time. He's 2 hours behind us, and he's 2 hours behind me. I don't know where everybody is, all in the United States and outside the country that are watching this. I'm really curious, and I'll have to look it up on my phone after. The person that's from Australia, I can't wait to look up and see if she's on today's time or tomorrow's time.
I think they're on tomorrow already.
Something like that. Tomorrow for us, current for her, right? Okay. Right. So for Trevor, I want you all to know that Trevor Wicken has been a medical fitness practitioner for the past 15 years and is passionate about settling his clients free from pain and restrictions through exercise. Not settling, but setting his clients free from pain and restrictions through exercise. He holds a bachelor's degree in sports medicine from Colorado State University and a master's degree in exercise science from California University of Pennsylvania. Trevor's an NASM certified corrective exercise specialist, performance enhancement specialist, and elite personal trainer. He also serves as a level 2 neurokinetic therapist and TRX sports medicine practitioner. So let's let Trevor take it away. He's also got a company called the MS Gym. He's very well known on Facebook. And Trevor, go with it. See you in a few.
All right. Thanks, Stuart. Well, first of all, I just want to thank all you guys for being here. I've been super impressed by Dr. Mehta and Dr. Beatty so far. I've always functioned and operated in an integrated model. I've been working with people with neurodegenerative conditions since I was 18 years old, and I'm now almost 43. So it's been my entire life. And what I found is that the integrative approach, when physicians and therapists and movement practitioners and massage therapists, yoga practitioners, Pilates, chiropractors, everything else can all work together, that's when the greatest results can happen. Because like Dr. Mehta was saying before, and like Dr. Beatty said, everybody's symptoms are different, everybody's conditions are different. And it takes a variety of methodologies to really balance out the body and the brain, the central nervous system especially. And it's not just one therapy, one direction, one medication, one exercise program, one nutrition plan. There is never going to be that one thing that sets you free and just all of a sudden counteracts everything. It's going to be a collective integration of multiple things that is going to lead you to developing a lifestyle that is healing, right? A lifestyle that allows you more choice, more freedom, more movement, more cognition, and just the ability to be able to live your life by design and not by diagnosis is what we always say, right? Pardon me. So today what I want to talk to you about is what I'm passionate about, which is movement, and not just exercise, right? Using movement as medicine with MS is more than just an exercise program, because there are a lot of exercise programs out there, and there's some good ones. And like Dr. Mehta was saying at the beginning, is that whatever works for you, right? Whatever you like, whatever fits into your schedule, whatever's affordable for you, whatever keeps you consistent and keeps you focused and keeps you committed and keeps you on track, that's what you should be using. All right. So I want to give you my way of thinking and what my studies have brought me to, and how I operate with all of my MS gymmers, because we are getting really crazy results. We are having people with primary progressive get out of motorized scooters. We are having people with relapsing, remitting feel awesome and they're hiking again. We have women that were not pregnant become pregnant We have people that are riding bikes again. We have people that are slowly jogging again. We have people that literally have been in a chair for decades, all of a sudden being able to stand up and feel empowered again because they can walk themselves to the bathroom. They can put on a pair of pants. They can take a shower and not pass out. They can go to a movie with their spouse and not have to use the bathroom a ton. So it's not just about can you exercise better, it's about can you live better? Can you resume your life as a functional adult to feel like you're a functional adult again and do things that quote unquote normal people can do? Because if people don't have MS and have not lived as a person with MS or a care provider for someone with MS, they're never going to understand how big of a victory it is like I said, for you to wash your hair, for you to cook a meal, for you to go outside in the heat and not be wrecked in like 7 minutes. And that's what we're all about here. We're all about the restoration of the quality of your life. And it's all based on the power of your brain's ability to change. I'm going to talk about the concept of neuroplasticity, which means your brain's ability to change. And neuroplasticity does not just happen from exercise and movement. It happens from everything that the two physicians that you just heard from are speaking about. And what you're going to hear next about relationships. Neuroplastic change happens when you actually facilitate your brain doing something different. Make your brain pay attention to find an alternative neurologic pathway or neural network that allows you to think better, eat better, drink better, sleep better, move better, relax better, and be more aware of who you are. So this whole entire presentation is based on movement, but movement is only one area where neuroplastic change and neurologic improvement can happen in your body. So let's get this fired up. So this is healing in motion. Everything that we can talk about with movement, right? So this is one of my favorite movies ever, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And I love the dad in there because all he does is he loves being Greek. And every single time someone has a problem, all he does is like spray Windex on it, right? But he's like, everything stems from Greek, right? All good things in the world come from the Greek, right? You should be proud to be Greek, right? So moving forward, I could say the same thing about the central nervous system, right? Everything stems from the central nervous system. So in your central nervous system, there's 120 billion neurons, okay? And hopefully my math's right on this, okay? Each neuron connects and works with between 10,000 and 80,000 other neurons. And a neuron, like physicians have been talking about, is your nerve cells, all right? So that means that there is 9.6 quadrillion possible neural networks in your body, in your central nervous system. And to put that in perspective, there's between 200 and 300 billion stars in our galaxy. So when you're out in the middle of a field or out in the middle of the mountains and you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many stars. That is only a small segment of 200 to 300 billion. Imagine 9.6 quadrillion. If you looked up and we could look inside your body, you would have infinite light inside your body because there's electrical signals going on all over the place. So moving forward, what that means is that your central nervous system is the most efficient control system in your entire body because it governs everything in your body. It's the fastest system in your body. It's the most anatomically stable part of your body as well. And so when both of the physicians that you just heard from were talking about, and I'm so fired up that they mentioned that research is starting to evolve away from MS is just an autoimmune condition. That's it. But to hear these medical practitioners say, well, kinda, but a lot of it's based on inflammation. Well, inflammation just tanks your nerves. It shuts down things in your body. If you're in an inflammatory state, that's going to allow a lot of your MS symptoms to kind of exacerbate because your body's in a protective mechanism. It's in fight or flight mode all the time. You're never going to be able to rest and recover, like Dr. Meadow was saying, with mindfulness and yoga and breathing. And Dr. Beatty was talking about the stress response. Like, you're never going to get there if your body's constantly in this inflammation mode. So the cool part is that nerves are so anatomically stable. That means that they know how to come back to homeostasis and find balance. It's my job as a practitioner and all the practitioners on this summit, and your job as an MS athlete, to actually lead your body back to that state of homeostasis as best you can to help you better manage your symptoms. Now, the cool part is that with nerves, they're also, even though they're stable, they're the most functionally plastic or functionally changeable nerve or cells in your entire body. All right, so moving forward, when I say that, the question comes up, well, then, like, how does that change? What is neuroplasticity? That sounds like a fancy geeked out science term. Well, yeah, but what it really means is that it's the changing of neurons. It's the reorganizing of neural networks, the repatterning of function, the retraining and the communication throughout your nervous system, and the remapping of the neuromuscular, meaning nerve to muscle, nerve to joint conversations that are happening. All right. So people are like, well, how does that work? All right. So moving forward, there's a pretty cool illustration that I use a lot. So let's say the road. Okay. So there's a bunch of maps in your brain and roads in your brain. Imagine there's a big old highway system in your brain. So there's a highway that goes from your brain to, let's say, your arm, okay, or your hand. Well, right now, that highway from your brain to your hand is a major highway. It's 8 lanes, it's concrete, it's fast moving, there's a lot of traffic to it. The brain knows how to use this highway. Well, if all of a sudden you get a lesion in, let's say, the parietal lobe of your brain or something like that, and it actually affects the motor control and the sensory control in your hand, then that map is going to become really blurry. That road is all of a sudden going to have a bomb dropped on it, and boom, there's going to be an explosion. So if you have nerves that are demyelinated and affected, and there's inflammation happening in that part of your brain, it's likely that the road between your brain and your hand that you've always used to use your hand your whole life ain't gonna work no more, right? Super technical language there, right? So it's not gonna work. But here's the cool part. Like I said, 9.6 quadrillion neural networks. So the brain has been created that it will actually find an alternative pathway. And you can think about this like a frontage road or a back road or a utility road. Those roads are often smaller. They're not as developed. Some of them are gravel, some of them are 2-lane, whatever it might be. They're not real pretty, but they get the job done. They still get the job done from allowing signals to go from your brain to your hand. But right now, at this point, that preferred highway, road A, is the preferred way, but it is damaged. So we have to find a way around that. So what the brain does is it actually selects the other frontage roads. Let's say there's a road B and a road C that go from your brain to your hand that provides sensory and motor feedback. Well, we need to start allowing and facilitating your brain to better use and access those frontage roads. Because when those frontage roads are used more often, then what happens is that they become more developed. They become faster. The brain all of a sudden's like, I really like doing this. We're getting the result. I can reach out and grab my cup of coffee instead of missing it or having a tremor as I get there. I like this better. This is survival for me. Like Dr. Beatty said, I'm a coffee drinker too. It's survival for me to get my coffee in the morning, right? So I need to find a way. So as we use those new pathways, the brain lays down more and more and more and more communication, and that repetition of using those frontage roads becomes the preferred pathway. That's neuroplasticity. So we work around MS damage, work around damaged movement patterns to create new movement patterns in a new movement language. And my job is to help you become more fluent and more conversational in that new movement language. Okay, so moving forward. So the main factor from a neurologic standpoint, the main thing in your body that allows this to happen is what is called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, okay? So BDNF actually helps your brain adapt and learn. It's like having an onboard tutor in your brain that helps your body improve all forms of plasticity. That could be how you digest your food, how your body uses water, how you think thoughts, what words you have, what conversations you have in your head, what words come out of your mouth to other people, the relationships you select, the media that you select, the food you select, and overall, the type of movement. If you move well and you move in a very neurologic specific way, BDNF is what helps your brain learn better. It is, like I said, the tutor that is helping you learn your new language. Now, BDNF increases with exercise. It increases with sleep. It increases with good nutrition, and it increases with less cortisol and stress hormones in your body. So if you're not moving, okay, you don't have a lot of BDNF, it's going to be hard for your brain to change. If you're not sleeping, same thing. You're not sleeping, it's going to be hard for your brain to learn because it's exhausted. If you're putting fat, sugar, dairy, all kinds of processed junk in your system, or you know that you're sensitive to a food, but you eat it anyway, that's going to tank your BDNF. And if you're allowing yourself to get stressed out, right, and think about how bad you have it and how you're so frustrated and this is happening again and this person left and they don't understand me, and you get into this negative headspace, that's going to destroy you. And your brain is not going to learn because it's so focused on what's not happening. It has no neurologic reserve to actually allow you to focus on what could be. All right. So everything that's happening with the two physicians that you just heard from, what they're saying is awesome, especially the complementary model. A medication is going to allow you to at least get your symptoms under control so that you can focus on improving these other areas of healing that are on this slide right now. Exercise, sleep, nutrition, stress, hydration, supplementation, mindset, mindfulness, relation, all that kind of stuff, all right? So moving forward, if we want to stimulate BDNF, or we want to stimulate BDNF because we need to learn how to survive the MS storms that happen in our body. And your brain's #1 job is survival, all right? So I think that on some days, MS looks like this dinosaur that's like all like weaponized with rockets and lasers and whatever. And here we are, just this like native warrior with a spear going after this thing, right? And so, but it's possible for us to kill that monster. So moving forward. So the way that happens is you want to use the power of neurology, okay? So looking to the slide to the left, the 3 main functions of your brain, just to keep things really simple for you, is sensory input, meaning what's coming in and what do I see that's going on around me, along with my 5 senses, right? Then what's going on inside of me. So your senses are called exteroception, right? Your inside me, your body awareness, my connectedness to myself is called interoception. So we got exteroception and interoception. Those are your sensory inputs, all right? Do you know what's going on outside of your body? Are you aware of what's going on inside of your body, which is mindfulness, all right? Then can your brain, so first of all, can your brain process sensory-wise what's going on? Can it see? Can it balance? Can it change direction? Can it accommodate for the wind? Does it get startled by loud noise? Can you feel your foot on the floor? If you can't, if you answered no, that's a big problem in your brain. Second thing is an integration thing. So once we take in sensory information, it kind of goes up and forward. Can you take in sensory information in your brain and then create a motor plan to actually do something with it, right? So sometimes the brain has sensory problems, sometimes it has integration problems, but it almost always manifests in a motor problem, meaning I can't move well. So your MS symptoms right now that have to do with movement and motor and spasticity and weakness and stiffness and pain, that's kind of a manifestation of those other 2 systems not functioning well, your sensory and your integration. Now, I would say that probably 95% of most fitness exercise therapies out there they only focus on the motor symptoms. So they neglect 2/3 of the equation because nobody's really working on, well, how do my eyes work? How does my vestibular system work? How does that all process with my spinal cord to go out to my peripheral nerves to allow joint receptors to function to allow me to move? Nobody functions on that, but we do, or very few do. I won't say no one. Very few do. Okay, I get fired up, so I'm pretty high energy, if you can tell, right? So that's what I get super fired up about, and we're seeing amazing results. Like, I was just getting messages on my phone today from people that are talking about the heat wave and all this kind of stuff, and why am I so hot and why am I so fatigued? And I talk to them and I drop posts about breathing and vestibular work and visual work and vagal nerve stimulation. And then I have other people who've been using those methods come in and be like, the heat doesn't affect me as much. I can go for a walk in these high temperatures. This is awesome. Okay, so that's how the nervous system works. So we need to teach your brain to be really good at kind of assessing what's happening outside of us and inside of us. We need to get our brains better at interpreting, well, what do we do with that information? And then we need to get our bodies better at saying, oh, I just got a motor plan sent from my cortex. Now I need to do something with that. All right, so moving forward. So the things that interrupt all of that sensory communication is what's called your threat bucket. All right. So your brain will pay attention. Like I said, its number one job is survival. Anything that threatens its survival, it's going to focus on first. Right. So if you don't see well, your body's going to slow you down. If your vestibular system doesn't work and your brain feels like it's going to fall over, it's going to make you sit down. It's going to not allow you to feel comfortable up on your feet because it's safer to sit in a chair. It's safer to lay down on your back. So a lot of the MS symptoms that you guys are experiencing are protective measures because the brain is oriented towards predictable outcomes. So if for years it's been unsafe to walk, right, your brain's going to feel safer in your chair. So if you're in a movement program or an exercise program where all they're doing is getting you up and making you stand on your feet and walk and walk and walk and walk, but your brain still feels unsafe, then basically your brain is compensating, your brain is practicing wrong, your brain it's too much for it. And you're not going to get that much better. It's going to take a really long time. So as Dr. Mehta was saying before, like the less is more approach is what we want to look at. We want to find the minimum effective dose of exercise that allows your brain to feel safe, confident, and capable of moving and not flare up or freak your brain out to where symptoms show up because your brain's trying to protect you from something that it either doesn't know how to do, can't figure out how to do, or forgot how to do. All right. And this threat is not just MS. When we talk about stress, right, we talk about inflammation, that can be inflammatory in your mental, your emotional, your spiritual, your relational, and your physical state. So how's your job? How's your relationships? How's your eating? How's your water? How's your sleep? What are you listening to? What are you focusing on? What are you reading? Who are you talking to? What's your friend group? Like all kinds of stuff. You got to look and see what things in your life are producing stress, because every single stressor your brain will pay attention to, and that will take neurologic energy and metabolic energy. And if you are so focused on this one negative thing over here and it's sucking you dry, you're not going to have a lot of resources left and a lot of neurologic reserve left in order to focus on moving and getting your balance better and standing up well and fighting fatigue and building muscle. Okay? So you've got to get in a place where you can manage your lifestyle, and you've got to have a strategy on how to manage your lifestyle to reduce threat. Okay? Moving forward. So just looking at this, there's a lot on here, but I just kind of covered that with a lot of words, all right? Is that threat equals MS symptoms. Threat equals sympathetic stimulus. Threat equals fight or flight, okay? Threat signals your brain to protect you. Protection is don't let them move. Slow them down. Create spasticity, create fatigue, create immobility, create poor balance, because if this person moves, there's a good chance we could fall and break something. Now, the goal is to reduce that threat. to improve balance, coordination, strength, endurance, reduction in pain. All right, so moving forward, how do we do that? Okay, so next slide, please. So we do it through movement. So job number 2 in the brain is movement. So moving forward, when we look at movement, there's receptors in your body that signal and that can pick up on movement. And movement actually inhibits another joint receptor, which are the nerve endings in your joints, called nociceptors. Nociceptors perceive threat. So if you look at this, you are how you move, okay? Movement is the currency of health. Great movement produces healthy, pain-free, high-level living. Bad movement or disrupted movement produces pain, dysfunction, reduction in movement, and brain function. So moving forward, how do we do that? Well, we specifically train in a way that is going to activate multiple parts of our nervous system so that neuroplasticity can happen, so that the brain will find alternative neural pathways in order to allow you to move better. So the body will adapt to the demands that are placed on it. The body will change according to what it does, according to what it practices. And if you want a certain result, you must be intentional, but you also must be strategic, all right? You need to have dose-appropriate exercise progressions, because not all exercise is created equal, and exercise isn't so easy that you can't screw it up. So moving forward, we've got to have a movement plan where we need to create function from movement. We need to create neurologic connection from movement. We need to clarify a lot of the blurry brain maps, and we need to help find other roads to develop so that movement can improve. So you got Wolff's Law and Davies' Law, which basically says that bone and soft tissue will adapt to the demands placed on it or not placed on it. And then Trevor's Law is the brain will learn how to move accordingly to the pathway that's most effective, efficient, safe, and doable. So form and formation and recovery follows function. So next slide. So when you hear about the terms functional neurology, functional medicine, functional nutrition, it's also that the body can function better together, all right? So the only thing on this slide, and Dr. Beatty was talking about fixing gait patterns, super possible, right? So walking is the single strongest, most consistent, and full body loading event that our bodies go through. So in the MS Gym, every single program, from the beginning of our library, which is basically teaching people how to move on their backs in a bed, all the way up to people being able to do like balance drills where they're actually shifting their weight back and forth. They're landing on one foot and balancing. Everything's about getting you to walk better. Because walking is the most fundamental movement biomechanical pattern that we have as bipedal mammals. So if we can teach you to walk better, it stimulates your whole body when you walk, and it helps you improve. So the goal needs to be to get your brain to actually feel safe, first of all, sitting up well, moving in a seated position, standing up well and finding balance, transferring well from standing to mobility, and then consistently walking. So move forward. So, and then that number 3 job is proprioception. So does your body know what it's doing? So if you look at the bold print on this slide, you have the brain, which we've been talking about, sensory, integration, and motor. That's your headquarters. But then you have vestibular organs, which are in your ear, eyes, which send visual information, and then you have stretch receptors in your skin, your muscles, and joint. All those play together. So when Dr. Beatty was asking me about vertigo and tinnitus and or tinnitus, however you want to pronounce it, and all that stuff, yes, we have people improve by some of the drills that we're doing using vestibular training and visual training in the MS Gym. Moving forward. So again, proprioception can be internal, interoception, and external, exteroception. Do you feel safe and confident being able to manage what's outside of you, what's happening to you, mentally, physically, all that kind of stuff? And do you feel confident, safe, secure, and knowledgeable, connected on what's going on inside of you? So you've got your brain, you've got your spinal cord, and you've got your peripheral nerves, right? Then you got your nerve endings going on in your joints, but all proprioception and awareness of the body and the brain's ability to move lives in the brain. Okay, next slide, please. I'm sorry, move forward, please. So again, here's the neural sensors, right? So we have sensors in our joints for chemical, for pressure, for thermo, meaning heat, vibration. And then the two most important receptors that I want you to remember are mechanoreceptors, meaning think biomechanics, movement mechanics. They sense movement. And then you got nociceptors, which sense threat. So the more you move and the better you move in a non-stressful way, those nociceptors of threat get turned off. So if you turn up your good mechanoreception, you turn down your nociception, which allows your brain to function better. It downregulates your sympathetic nervous system and it upregulates your parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and recovery, which both of the physicians before you said rest and recovery is what we're finding are working so well, right? And that's what we want to focus on moving forward. All right, so again, proprioception, mind and body maps. Where are we? What are we doing? How does it feel? Is it effective? And I would add one more, is it safe? Now, MS actually blurs your brain maps. Movement focuses your brain on clarifying those brain maps. Moving forward. So let's move. How do we do that? Move forward. So we use the RISE method. We use movement medication, movement medicine. All right. RISE is my way that I've trained for like 18 years. It stands for rebalancing and rebalancing and reactivation, integration, strengthening, and energizing. Move forward. So what does that look like? So rebalancing is basically, let's think about two dials on a speaker. Some of your muscles are going to be overactive. Some of your muscles are going to be underactive. So in very simple terms, we need to turn down the volume on the overactive, spastic, and tight muscles, turn up the volume on the weak and flaccid and non-usable muscles to give you a nice muscle balance, neuromuscular balance. That improves mobility, which improves muscle activity. Moving forward. So the second R is reactivate. So we need to be able to get muscles to function as themselves, all right? We need to get a glute maximus to fire and do extension. We need to get a pec muscle to be able to fire. We need to get a lat muscle to be able to fire. So we use isolated activation, isolated strengthening to get the muscles to fire and know how to play their positions on the field. Next slide. And then we put it together. Right? So if you look at this slide, it's kind of like a playbook. And I'm an American and I love American football. So you think about it, there's all these different positions on the field, right? You got a quarterback, you got a middle linebacker, you got an offensive lineman, you got a running back. They all know what they're supposed to do as those positions. So those are individual muscles. But in order for an offense to run a play and move the ball down the field, the linemen need to know what to do. The quarterback needs to know what to do. The receivers need to know what to do, and they need to know where the ball's going to go so that they can actually act appropriately. So integration in the brain is teaching those muscles, once they know how to work work on their own independently, how to work together. Next slide. And then what that does is when you have muscles that are like they're out of freak out mode and symptom mode, they can work better on their own, they can work together as a team. That's when you start to strength train. That's when you start to add bands and dumbbells and kettlebells and stuff like that. Like if you add external resistance, meaning weights, onto a body that is dysfunctional, you will only reinforce dysfunctionality or dysfunction. I don't know if dysfunctionality is a word, but it sounded good. So you do not want to train dysfunction and strengthen dysfunction on top of dysfunction. That's like you have a crack in your foundation and you scrape the heck out of this old house and you put a beautiful brand new house on top of a shaky foundation, you're going to have a problem. So strength, for me, when we focus on strength, all that stuff has to be in place. Then we add strength. And when we add strength, we need to focus on function before fitness. Okay? It's fine if you're strong and you can sit on a leg press machine and press 500 pounds, but how is that going to translate into your life? It's cool if you want to sit down and bench press, that's fine. How's that going to translate into your life? I'd rather have you up on your feet learning how to move your hands forward, or sitting in a chair learning how to push, learning how to lift, learning how to rotate, so that your brain doesn't freak out when that happens in real life and create symptoms. So strength training in the MS gym is full body, multi-joint, multi-directional, multi-sensory, based on life activities, job activities, recreation, and habits. Next slide, or move forward. And what that does is that creates energy, which creates endurance. So neurologic endurance training is training your nervous system to find strength, maintain posture, and keep finding strength and maintaining good posture, active posture in a symptom-free, strain-free movement pattern over and over and over again, which is what? That's how we function as human beings, right? It's great if you take 5,000 steps in a day, but what if you're practicing the wrong patterning 5,000 times? What if we can get your biomechanical system? What if we can start to alter that and improve your movement patterns as you practice those 5,000 steps? Eventually, your brain will start to go towards better movement patterns. It's like speaking two languages. You got your native tongue and you got your second language. So like for me, I know English and I know Spanish. For me to learn Spanish effectively, I have to be put in environments where I'm kind of going to be fluctuating between English and Spanish, right? In Spanglish, until I get really good at using Spanish. And then I'm having that conversation in my head in Spanish and in English at the same time. That's how movement happens. That's how neuroplasticity happens. And eventually your brain starts to prefer this second language over here, because if you're in a Spanish speaking country, it's very easy. It's a lot easier to speak Spanish than try and fumble around and expect other people to speak English. So with MS, you got to learn MS movement language so that you can function in that environment on certain things where your symptoms flare up. Now, when we improve that neurologic endurance, you will have a reduction in fatigue. You will have improved sleep. You will increase your brain volume. I've done it with Alzheimer's patients. In the hippocampus, grown brain cells, BDNF is responsible for that. All right? So next slide. So I love being part of this integrated team. I love being part of like a community that's celebrating the psychology, the movement, the medicine, the nutrition, the lifestyle, all that kind of stuff. Because if you can integrate movement into your life and integrate healing practices into your life, that's the way to heal. That's the way to get better. That's the way to manage your MS symptoms better. So for me, what I give you, what I take pride in, and what I'm insanely passionate about is giving you that structured movement plan, giving you direct coaching on when you run into a problem. And also, like Dr. Beatty was talking about, giving you and tapping you into a community of people that are going through exactly what you're going through. Like we have thousands of MS gymmers in our community at this point. I guarantee you that someone is going through, or 3 or 4 people are going to collectively match what you're going through right now, what your MS case looks like, what symptoms you have, how it's affected your life mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially, relationally, all of that. And support is the biggest thing, because we're all going to fall. Victory only comes after defeat. And if we want to create a victory culture, we've got to embrace the defeats and the struggles, because we know that we have other people standing beside us, behind us, in front of us to lift us up and move forward. It starts with an awesome integrated medical team, therapy team, lifestyle development team, and then that's complemented with an awesome support community, which you have here at MS Views and News. And I am blessed to be a part of this, and also to lead my people in the MS gym. It's fantastic. I love them. They're like my family. Next slide. So for me, like, we do have a membership program, but we have a ton of free exercises online. Like, I think we're like at 700 something videos, both on YouTube, on Instagram. We have a free Facebook site. So check that out, right? Just give yourself a chance. Because like we've all been talking about, there's so many different parts of this healing game. It can be overwhelming. to make all these changes at one time, and your brain doesn't like that. So let me figure it out for you. Let your doctors help you figure it out. Let your therapist help you figure it out. Follow their plan, follow their recommendations, follow what they give you, because this is what we're passionate about as your wellness team. And I'm just a part of it, man. I'm just happy I get to serve the people that I serve, and I'm happy to be here. So that's it for me. I know I talk quick. I know there was a lot of information, but you guys will get the replay. And if you have any questions, jump in, check us out. We're rock and roll.
Again, thanks to Trevor from the international community. Very good, very good. Thank you. Hey, your slides were awesome. Really, really informative. I love them. In fact, I can't wait to take snips of them and use them for other things with your permission. All right. But
sure, just tell them where you came from and we're all good.
Exactly. Good. So moving forward, without changing a slide, moving forward, let's talk about some of these questions that we have for you. All right. We did field quite a few during the registration process, and there are some that from people that are online right now. So one of them is, do you know of a specific exercise that can be done for a person with a weak bladder?
Well, bladder stuff's a little bit complicated because there's a neurologic part of it. There's also a motor part of it. So what we've seen is that a lot of the breathing activities, like focused, intentional 360 breathing, which means breathing into your whole canister, like diaphragm, abs, pelvic floor, all that, being able to get that awareness of expanding and contracting your deep core canister, that has helped a ton of my gymmers with bladder issues. It's called your intrinsic kinetic chain. That's going to be your tongue, your throat, all of your intercostal muscles up here, your bladder, your diaphragm. So if you can, I think breath work is probably one of the best things that we've been using for bladder issues and bladder improvement, both incontinence and bowel control, or I guess bladder and bowel control, there you go, for our people. So there's different types of breathing, there's different ways to breathe, but intrinsically, all that stuff's linked, and then that's also linked up into a lot of the brainstem and your cranial nerves. So doing vagus nerve work while you're doing breath control, meaning like as you're doing your breathing exercises, hum, sing. You can have vibratory stimulus on your ears, on the base of your neck, or the back of your ear, stuff like that. If you stimulate the vagus nerve while you're actually doing breath work, then that improves that parasympathetic and autonomic control, which can help bladder and bowel function.
Okay, thank you. So a person is asking or saying that she seems to be scared that she will fail and won't improve, and this is stopping her from beginning to exercise.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people have tried a lot of stuff and failed, all right? You guys, the reason why people with MS are my tribe is because you guys have a fight within you that you just don't give up, right? You guys are, I don't want to, everybody uses the term warriors, but you truly are. Like, but we need to learn to be peace-filled warriors. Like, there's times to attack and there's times to chill out, right? And a lot of times people don't take action because they haven't really defined their expectations, and they also haven't really learned what self-compassion is, right? So a lot of times we get into an exercise program and it's like grind, 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 go, go, go. I got to get results in 90 days. Like Dr. Mehta said, like functional integrated medicine is long-term health care, not short-term crisis care, all right? So when we talk about getting started and finding that motivation, you need to find a way that is something that's very doable for you. If you can do 5 minutes a day of breathing work, start there. Then if you do 5 minutes of like, maybe you're just doing some mobility work, great, start there. Pick one thing and get really, really good at celebrating yourself that you did 5 minutes or 10 minutes, because then you'll start to feel better. Your brain will start to crave movement, and that 5 minutes will turn into 15, into 25 minutes really quick, but you've just got to take action. You're never going to find motivation, because motivation is spawned on and produced by movement and action and going.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, so a few people, I just want to get this out of the way real quick. A few people are asking, one, Where is your MS Gym? 2, if there's no MS Gym by them, how can they find one?
So we're completely 100% online. There are no physical locations. So the MS Gym is at themsgym.com. That's it. So everything we do is online. Basically, the format is you log in, you go to your program, you find what day you're on, day 17, you press play. I lead you through the exercises. I cue you on how to do it right. I tell you what to watch out for. You just go, right? So we are in like 40, 50 something countries right now, and we're reaching people in places like Egypt and Iran and India that have zero help. They're getting in here and they're finding hope because like they don't have to go anywhere, right? So we're all over the place. One location, all around the world.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. All right, next, person's asking, what is the best exercise that you can recommend for foot drop?
It kind of depends on what foot drop you have. However, I'm like what your foot's doing. So foot drop is what we found is a majority of foot drop is helped out with pelvic work and hip work. All right. And then that is complemented with sensory work. So if you can feed better sensory stuff into your feet, which I have entire videos of that on, or of that, yeah, commenting on that. So if you can improve the sensory function of your feet, then your brain knows where that foot's hitting. If you can improve your pelvic function and your mobility function, along with your vestibular system, which is directly related to your spinal cord, which directly feeds into your feet, that will help you as well. So foot drop, what we're finding is kind of multi-layered. We got to hit the vestibular system, the spinal tracts, the lumbopelvic girdle, your hip strength, and then eventually work on ankle mapping and foot mapping to get that body to know how to use your foot again.
Great, thank you. All right, next, I'm very interested in reducing leg stiffness when wanting to move my legs to get out of bed. How do I reduce my leg stiffness?
Again, it kind of depends on what type, like specifically, there's different types of stiffness, whether it's an extensor spasticity, a flexor spasticity, just general pelvic mobility problems, whatever it might be. You've got to know if your leg is kind of stuck in a bent position, then we do some stuff up in your brain to work on improving extension. If your leg is locked into extension, like a stiff leg, we do things in your brain to help you work on flexing it. But one of the main things we found immediately is breathing. So working on like 3 to 5 minutes of really filling your deep canister for about 4 seconds, holding it, then exhaling all of that air out for about 6 to 8 seconds, 2, 3, 4 times a day will actually improve parasympathetic response, which will decrease that stiffness. The second thing would be to work on literally like getting a rolling pin or lacrosse balls or something like that, and slowly and gently just rubbing out those muscles to calm down the spasticity and upregulate parasympathetics in that specific muscle spindle group, whatever muscle that is. And then the third thing is in legs, hip mobility, pelvic mobility, spinal function, right? So all of those weird lower leg and upper body things, upper body's a lot of neck and thoracic, just to generalize. Lower body's a lot of lumbopelvic, gluteal leg function stuff. So specific exercises for that, like I said, breathing, reducing spasticity, and then working on hip movement. So moving your hips in, moving your hips out while you're seated, lifting your leg up if you can, pushing down into the floor if you can, rolling your hips around, rolling your trunk around, whatever it might be. That will all stimulate those nerves to fire and also make your brain feel safer using your pelvis, which will reduce that spasticity. Because that stiffness and that spasticity is basically a protective mechanism on your brain saying, yo, man, your hips aren't stable. Your pelvis isn't moving. We got to get those things functioning. Otherwise, you're going to fall down and possibly hurt yourself.
Okay, thank you for that. Next, we have one person named Christy who just wants to let everybody know that Trevor is awesome. So I figured that would help bring a smile on your face. All right. The next is how do you develop a personal plan when you're virtual?
So how do I put this? There's generalizations on movement, like movement's movement, right? So everybody has an elbow. Everybody has a cervical spine. Everybody has a thoracic spine. So if we can, from a global standpoint, if somebody walked into, when I was seeing people in person, there's always this global approach first, and then we narrow that down to individualize, right? Because if we can globally teach your body how to function better, how to have your brain know how to use your shoulder, know how to use your hip, know how to breathe well, that takes care of a lot of symptoms. And then once we take care of that first layer of symptom stuff and get your body more stable and more confident in itself, then we can actually start to get down and handle some of the specifics. Now, in the MS Gym, we do have that community. People can ask questions in there. I am in there 2, 3, 4 times a week sometimes answering people's specific questions. We also have office hours 2 days a week where people can send in their specific questions. Meaning like, hey man, I'm using your programs, I feel great, but I have this bladder issue, or I have nystagmus in my eyes, or I have, I broke my hip, or I have a fractured disc, or I have fractured spine, or a disc issue. At that point, I can guide you along with some of my assistants who all have MS and have been through the program on what we've used, what we've seen successful, all that kind of stuff. So there's this global approach to programming, and there's a lot of variety in programming. And then we can get down to specifics because we're available to answer questions.
Thank you. All right, I've got a lot of questions to ask you. We have 7 minutes to do it all in, okay?
All right, let's roll, man.
Got to keep them short, and let's get going here. I'm going to combine some of these questions. What exercises are most beneficial to help a person stand from a chair or a wheelchair?
Neurologically, sensory-wise, vestibular function, right? So if your body cannot, if your vestibular system's not working, your body's not going to feel safe with the elevation change of going from seated to standing. That elevation change will freak your brain out, all right? So there's vestibular training that we do in the MS Gym. I mean, even something as simple as pushing, like literally pushing up through the top of your head as tall as you can without straining, and then just slowly moving your head side to side, right? Slowly moving your head up and down in short little ranges of motion. That's going to improve your vestibular function. Number 2 would be what's called, we call it BGB in the MS Gym. Can you actually pull your shoulder blades down and activate them? Can you activate your deep core? Can you get your pelvis underneath you? If your pelvis, your deep core, and your shoulder blades are all firing at the same time, it creates anchoring stability so that your brain feels safe and your midline is locked down so that when you stand up, your brain feels safe doing it. So a combination of vestibular function, blade work, spinal work, pelvic work, that's what we do. Like I have an entire program that I just released called Sitting Strong. That entire program is geared on getting your body strong enough to stand up.
Okay, so are you suggesting, though, that somebody learns the part 2 to increase strength so that way they could help stand them up?
Yeah, strength will improve it. The nervous system has to be firing optimally first to get the message to those muscles to get stronger. Because strength is based on neurologic function, meaning that if your joints don't move and the communication is not getting there, it doesn't matter what you do to get stronger, you ain't going to get stronger. So you have to clear those fields first and allow the body to integrate better.
Okay, thank you. A lot of people are still at home from the pandemic. A lot of people haven't gotten out, and they want to know what kind of exercises they can do from their homes that will be as beneficial for them as if they were running around in the street.
Well, the MS Gym. so everything's at home based. I mean, you can do the MS Gym in your home. You can do it in a fitness facility, whatever it might be. So it depends on your level of mobility, what you can do, what you can't do. If you're very machine dependent, meaning that's where your workouts were and stuff, resistance bands are amazing. All of our programs include resistance bands, right? Body weight training, just getting your body better functioning to change directions, go up and down, manage your posture, have strong, solid postural dynamics. That's going to make you stronger, right? If you cannot move very well and you can't stand up, doing high intensity interval training while seated is super beneficial. So like arm swings and boxing and like uppercuts, I mean, and keep yourself safe and go at the appropriate speed. But I use a ton of high intensity interval training in the MS gym where it's like 20 seconds on and then a 2-second rest, 3 to 4 rounds of 20-second really, really fast movement like that under control will actually, has a neuroprotective effect to your brain and will improve cardiovascular functioning. Same as if you were on a treadmill. Like that's how I work out. I just sprint and then rest and then sprint and then rest. Like I'm not an endurance guy, right? But you will see that if you train well at home, once you start to get out on the street again, you're going to move better, right? So walk in your halls, walk around your house, walk up and down the stairs if you're able to. Even if you're in like a chair, wheel around your house, wheel backwards in your house, like all kinds of stuff. Like just get your body moving. That's the key.
Great, thank you. All right, we've got 2 minutes and change left, okay? I want you to please tell people, well, answer this. I have cervical cord lesions. Do you have some ideas for non-weight bearing exercises because of neuropathic pain, central pain, and something else? What do you have? I can't say the something else. So what kind of non-weight bearing exercises might you suggest?
Non-weight bearing, but she has cervical lesions. That's kind of a hard, I don't really understand the question. Like non-weight bearing, unless you're standing on your head, you're not really weight bearing.
Maybe just stretching exercises.
Yeah, so here's the thing with like cervical lesions, it will affect your brainstem, but that's not necessarily going to stop you from moving. All right. You can do eye drills to help your cervical function. You can do vestibular drills to work on your cervical function. You can do breathing drills to work on that cervical function. Upper body stuff is going to be like strengthening, mobility work, band training is going to work around those cervical lesions. A lot of midline core stability training, which we do every single session, that's going to work on around those cervical lesions, right? Pelvic mobility. If you work your pelvis, opposite joint function, it will help your neck improvement as well. So you don't have to be like weight bearing or weight bearing in order to do that. You basically can use your whole body to work around those lesion sites wherever they're at in your brain or in your nervous system.
Great, thank you. Before I get to my last question, and this is going to be the last question, I want to let everybody know, everybody that's got questions about the MS Gym, please go to their website, msgym.com, themsgym.com, or find them on Facebook, all right, and ask all your questions about how you could join or how you could get involved or anything that's got to do with the gym directly. Please write to them there. I don't want to take up the time right now on here, which we're already out of time, all right? Kanchin Charma Lopez says, we love you, Trevor. I don't know who this person is, but I'm sure it's a woman, and great. Okay, so
love you. See, I pay my people well, you know.
Right, that's what I figured also. All right, so I'm joking. All right, last question that I'm going to ask you, and then we really got to move on to our next speaker, is I'd appreciate hearing how we can help spasticity. Do you have any non-pharma measures to reduce spasticity? Yeah,
so we kind of covered this a little bit when I was talking about the individual that was asking about leg stiffness. Right. So breath work, anything that's going to help you improve your parasympathetic nervous system, upregulate it, downregulate the sympathetics is going to help, right? So from an intrinsic standpoint, physiological standpoint, humming, singing, swallowing, vibratory stimulus, like right here in your ear, on the back of your ear, those are all vagal nerve stimulators, okay? Vagus nerve is your parasympathetic nerve. So if you can get that going, that's going to help. Breath work is legitimately one of the most powerful things that you can do to reduce spasticity. Meditation will work, prayer will work, mindfulness training will work, quieting your mind will work, all of that stuff. Bodies freak out when they're put under a lot of stress. Your body stops and it puts the braking systems on, all right? From a mechanical standpoint, something like just literally get a $1 rolling pin, go down to your legs or go down into your ribs or go down into your calf and just gently roll out those muscles, because that movement of it's like a massage that will kind of calm down that muscle spindle and some of those Golgi tendons, which create that tension and get tension out of your body. And then you want to move that body part that's actually spastic. So if it's in your legs, you want to go to your pelvis and your hips. If you can improve pelvic function, that will help with leg spasticity. Upper body wise, hand spasticity, wrist spasticity. That's a lot of shoulder. That's a lot of neck stuff, right? So you always want to go towards the center of your body to help with spasticity in the limbs, because that's where all your big collections of nerves lie. So there's a ton of strategies for that. So that's what I would say. Work your hips, work your shoulders, work your neck, all that kind of stuff. And like Stuart said, there's a lot of videos for that. Free resources all over the dang place, because I want you guys to have the info to get started.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Trevor. I was very much on time until Trevor came along.
Sorry.
But I knew he had so much to talk about that I wanted to give him an extra 5 minutes to speak, which I did. And then I gave him an extra 5 minutes of Q&A because we just had so many questions. Thank you very much again, Trevor.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.